Would the clerk please call the roll?
Taylor,
Here.
Thorsland, Vantage Theranot, Wilson, Cowart, Esri, Farney,
Here.
Furtado, Greer, Hanauer Friedman, Locke,
Here.
Lockshin,
Here.
Michaels, Owen,
Here.
Pugh,
Present.
Rodriguez, Rogers,
Present.
Sexton, Smith,
Here.
Storr, Straub, Carter.
And Member Furtado is here. She just stepped out momentarily. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay. Ed's motion, second with JJ. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public participation, I have Isabel Scott. You can just use the mic at the table. That's easier, I think. Yeah. Yeah, just push the button. It'll turn red when it's on. You're on.
Okay. All right. Hello, my name is Isabel Scott. I'm a resident of Champaign. I'm here tonight at public comment because I have concerns about the proposed public safety sales tax. This tax, if approved by voters in November, will increase funding for the attorney and sheriff's office. However, the auditor has said that the county doesn't need this additional sales tax. And I understand that the county board also wants to put a measure on the ballot this November to eliminate the position of county auditor. I don't really understand the move to eliminate the auditor's office, and that causes me a lot of concern as well. But my main worry surrounds the sales tax. This is a regressive sales tax that is going to have the greatest impact on the poorest residents of Champaign County. This tax is also not the only one that Champaign City voters specifically would be voting on. Champaign City Council voted on adding an income tax increase measure to the ballot in November also in order to secure more funding for the Stride Center, which provides shelter and rapid rehousing programs for the homeless population in Champaign. This funding, as explained by Kyle Patterson, the township supervisor, is necessary to increase the amount of staff at Stride so they can better serve the homeless population of Champaign. Also, according to Supervisor Patterson, if this tax increase does not pass in November, it is very likely that Strides will have to shut down if it cannot secure adequate funding from somewhere else. My worry is that Champaign City voters will see the two tax increases on the ballot and not want to vote for either of them. And they would not be wrong for doing so. Times are incredibly difficult for so many people right now. I was at the city council meeting where the council voted to add the measure to the ballot, and several council members spoke about how difficult it was to ask for a tax increase from voters, knowing the sort of financial landscape that we are in right now. And this is a tax increase that's going to provide tangible support to a much needed service in the city of Champaign. And I empathize with Champaign City Council because I don't want to be the person asking people to pay more in taxes. That's obviously not a fun position to be in. But I don't understand how you can ask for a tax increase that's been characterized as not necessary per the words of the county auditor. I was here for a bit at the meeting yesterday night. I missed public comment. That's why I'm here tonight. And I was really struck by how much focus you as a board gave to each section of the ballot, and how several board members stressed the importance of financially supporting services to county residents. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. And as such, I am asking you to please not put any undue financial burden on the residents of Champaign County. I cannot understand why a tax increase is being considered if it's been deemed unnecessary. I feel that this increase ignores the financial strain many Champaign County residents are under and truly has no place on the ballot in November. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have no further slips, so I'm going to end public comment. First up on our budget presentations would be the Regional Office Education.
Thank you.
Yes, Leah?
I just have a quick question. I
Sure.
know we're at 12 members. So if anybody leaves, we break quorum, right? I mean, does that matter for
At this
budget
point,
hearings?
we're not voting on anything.
Okay.
So it could be just an informational meeting at that point. It's nice to have quorum, but
Okay,
we're not
I just
making
wanted to make
decisions.
sure.
We're not making decisions, so we can go forward.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Gary.
Real quick, before we start, I just want to let everyone know that we are working on compiling a list of budget requests and decision points that the board will have to think about in September. After the meeting tonight, we'll get that finalized and emailed out to everybody. Other than that, I don't have anything, so let's go ahead and get started.
So you see, we just, I don't want to read the thing to you, you guys know it. One of the things I want to highlight, we've, again, talking about our alternative school at Ready. This summer we expanded the kitchen, so our culinary arts program is going to get even larger. Abdulio, we kind of sat with him and said, what do you need? And then, what does he want? So I had to go needs first because he wanted a lot. But now it's also for safety. He can see all through the kitchen now because there used to be a wall that separated, so when the kids went to wash dishes, they could be out of sight, which is not always good in that setting. So now it's set up. Passed our final inspection 2 weeks ago, so we're up and running and ready to go. He was making homemade pizza for the kids that day, and they were thoroughly enjoying it. So most of our increases just went to salary and benefits. I didn't adjust any other lines. We kept those flat. I know, talking to my superintendents, I know what's coming, so we're trying to be as mindful as we can with our money and not ask for any more than what we need from you guys. So are there any questions for us? And Ready right now, I think we're enrollment about 65. We'll probably be close to, sadly, about 100 when we get to after the first semester.
Don?
Thanks, Harry. I'm really excited to hear about the culinary arts program there. What's the like maximum that you can have it ready right now?
I think Donna said the most we've ever had is 120.
Okay.
And that's pretty much wall to wall in there. So we try to stay at 100, a little more. Now some kids will transition out at semester, so if they have some success, we're always trying to get them back to the home district.
Right. And to the home districts are paying in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And we haven't increased that, I think, in the last 5 or 6 years, so.
Thanks.
Seeing nobody else with a comment, I do want to say from my time on the Urbana School Board, I know the great work that Ready does. And Gary, you are going to be leaving us, unfortunately, so we're not going to have the opportunity to hear from you again. So I just want to thank you personally for the great job that you've done for kids in Champaign County that need a different educational setting. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure working with you guys as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, next on we have Extension Education, Ginger Boaz.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ginger Bass. This is, I think, the 14th time I've been here, so sometimes I feel like I'm a newcomer, but obviously I'm not. Just a couple of highlights. Our funding is three-pronged, so we get about 20% of our funding from property tax and some other local funds. That is matched by the state about 85%. And then we also get funding from federal sources. So we actually have, we also have some other funding, some fundraising type funding to fund some of our programs as well. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was we provide through volunteers. We have about 500 volunteers right now, long-term volunteers. They are screened and are in our system that give back around $337,000 County of Champaign. Very proud of that program that's grown and sustained. Even we're back to pre-COVID numbers, so that's a feat in and of itself. So the other one area that I'd like to highlight is our youth programming, and we talked about Ready. It seems like we partner with almost every agency in town. We don't do what they do, but we hopefully try to enhance what they do. So we're trying to do some things with some of our most vulnerable as they transition into work. So workforce preparedness, and that's something that you don't see here, but that's an emerging trend, and I just wanted to bring that up. If you look at our budget, it's slightly higher than last year. Costs are much higher. However, we try to keep our numbers, be good stewards of our money, since we can come at it from several different pots of money. We try to keep it either stable or like it's slightly higher this year, but not a huge amount. So questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, next, Veterans Assistance Commission, Veterans Assistance Commission. Sure, come on up, Brad. They may have a few questions for you.
All I can tell you is I'm back. I'm so happy. You can see the smile on my face. We're in the process. I have 2 interviews actually tomorrow. And I want to thank Steve's staff for helping me get the budget together when we had probably a week to get it together. Actually, the budget has gone down a little bit, and that's where we're at right now.
Any questions from the board? Go ahead.
Brad, I think you mentioned that there was a bit of a tragedy there on the advisory commission with the stroke.
Yes, and all I can tell you is it didn't work out. Okay, that's all I can say for this lady right here in HR. Probably get on me. It just it did. Oh yeah, if you guys
John
don't
Maggio.
know, I'm sorry. I now I get you. Our president of the VAC Commission Board, John Maggio. If I don't know, if you guys do not know him, John had a stroke almost 2 weeks ago. Luckily, I can't say that's not the right word. I guess if you're going to have a stroke, luckily it was in the back of his brain, and all he has lost is his eyesight in his left eye. He still has motor functions, and he still has capability, communication, and everything's that way's fine. So he's on the mend. We'll probably have to vote a new board president, but we'll take care of all that. All right?
Brad, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it, and I know the veterans in the community do too.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, John, you are ready to go.
Good evening. Our office continues to be challenged by the growth in solar permitting. Our fees and our numbers of permits are up due to the solar permitting. It seems like every rural residence has a solar system going in, which is good, but it is a challenge for us. Speaking of solar systems, we finally got the permit fees for the $174,000 Baywa solar farm south of Sydney. The permit is on my desk. They still have a couple of things to get in, but that should begin construction. Well, they've been working on tiles already, but the actual construction should begin this fall. We have 3 other solar farm permits going through the permit process right now also, and those have increased our permit fees substantially. As far as zoning cases, we have a new Baywa solar farm, 135 megawatt, 1,000 acres, just east of the one that's under construction. So we're busy with solar farms. We are still recruiting a zoning officer and a planner. In terms of enforcement, our enforcement numbers this year are forecast to be down because we're operating with about a third-time zoning officer. Charlie Campo is doing a good job working in Susan Bergstrom's old position and still holding the line in the zoning officer. For some reason, every time I interview someone for the zoning officer position, they never talk to me again. And I don't know what that means, but I'm not having luck filling that position. Any questions?
Aaron?
Quick question, John. I think I know the answer to this, but if you were fully staffed right now, but just based with the number of cases and caseload and workload that your office has, you could easily use even yet another person in there, if we were to approve that position, or if you were fully staffed, are you?
We have never been fully staffed since the county board authorized a second zoning officer. We have never enjoyed having a second zoning officer yet. If we had a second zoning officer, I think we'd be in good shape.
Mike?
Yeah, John, on the expenditure total for this year, in the budget book, it shows the same expenditure for 2024. Is the slide correct and just the budget book has a typo? The budget book has 547,304 instead of the 507,304.
Yeah, and that's not what my copy of the slide has, so it's changed from what I saw.
It's changed,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
They should be the same,
Okay, thank you.
I believe.
I think that's a typo. It should say the 547,304.
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie?
I miss you, John. So Baywa's going to happen? That we think, I mean, this is, I don't know, how many years, 5, 6 years?
It's been 6 years since the special use permit was approved. It's supposed to happen, but as we tell everybody, the permit hasn't been approved yet.
Okay. It's a lot of money for the county and it's at least when the original proposal was 2 million work hours in our county. So it's a big deal. Is there any chance that the reason the job isn't getting filled, do you think maybe our salaries are pitched too low?
Well, the zoning officer position is a challenging position. When Charlie Campo had it, he has a degree in planning. He's a certified planner. I could turn Charlie loose. He knew what to do. We were able to attract him for the salary that we were offering. That's the only time we've had a planner working as the zoning officer. You can't get a degree in zoning. You typically hire from either people with a planning background, architecture background, engineering background would be great. I know we don't pay enough to get someone with an engineering background, and many planners are turned off by it because it's not planning. It's just zoning. And that is one problem with the position. If we paid more, sure, we could have more luck finding someone, I assume.
I'm wondering if maybe we could try to set up some sort of internship program or something with I don't know if the U of I's planning department is one of the best in the United States. When I worked in Indianapolis, if we got an application from U of I's planning or landscape architecture, like we hired them. Like and it's just sad to me that we have this amazing school of this, right? And we can't, so maybe we could try to find, like maybe it won't solve all the problems, but maybe we could set up something, I don't know. Let's talk. I'd really like to talk about this because we fought so hard to get you that position and it just is sad. And, and the thing is what this means for people in the rural areas is it takes them longer, right, to get projects up and off the ground, and we don't want that. We want economic development in our county, and so I feel for you because it was such a challenge to get you that position. I want to figure out how to get it filled.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Stephanie, because we've had a much greater luck this year working with the state's attorney's office. We have resolved more court cases than we have recently. We've got more cases in court. So I know the state's attorney's office is trying to improve the situation for our residents. And now it's sort of a challenge for us to keep up with them.
And I'll just add to that, that's because last budget cycle, we approved the additional civil attorney for the state's attorney's office with the specific task of one of their goals being catching up on this backlog.
Aaron?
Yeah, just a quick comment, I guess, or maybe a couple on the Baywa. They must think it's going to happen because I know there's at least 120 acres that a neighbor farmed that's just sat doing nothing this year other than growing weeds. Now I believe they have mowed it down at least once relatively recently. But so to let 120 acres just sit is something. And then I guess this is a quick question. You mentioned the other Baywa. Have they included what I know they were talking about, at least the battery storage in that second phase, you could say, second farm?
Yes, an accessory battery storage.
Is that the first one to
Yeah.
seriously have a battery fix?
And we have the text amendment for battery storage, but this is an accessory use, so we can deal with it as an accessory use. And it will help us, I think, get a much better understanding of what our final amendment should be like.
Any more questions? John, I guess we move on to the solid waste fund now.
Okay. The solid waste fund, board members who have been here a few years remember us telling you that we draw down the solid waste fund every year, paying for the recycling events. It totals something around $11,000, close to $12,000 for the 2 residential electronic collection events and the 1 household hazardous waste collection event. They're all very popular, but we don't have a funding source other than what was in the solid waste fund. And for 2025, with things as they are now, that fund is going to be in the red by close to $6,000 by the end of 2025. To pull it out of the red, the one funding source we have, I misspoke, the one funding source we have for solid waste activities are the waste hauler license fees. County Board increased those a couple years ago up to $35 per sticker. Every garbage truck needs a sticker. In order to solve the 2025 budget problem, we would need to increase those fees from 35 to 145, which is a big increase. I don't know what the cash flow situation for a waste hauler is, but it's another $100 a year for a sticker. I don't know if that will break them, but that's how much we need to fund these activities that, again, are very popular. They reduce the waste stream going to the landfills. The household hazardous waste is good because it takes some of that hazardous waste out of the waste stream. In fact, it shouldn't be in the waste stream, so without the household hazardous waste recycling, people can't do anything with these leftover items they have. They're not supposed to go in landfill, and they don't have any other alternative. Same thing with the residential electronic collection. Those things are not supposed to go into a landfill, so unless we provide recycling alternatives, our citizens are stuck. Road ditches become dumping grounds more than they are now.
JJ.
John, do you know how many, not how many trucks there are, but how many waste hauling companies we have operating in Champaign County?
I know that we have fewer every year. I'll guess there's something in the range of maybe 15 that get licenses. And like, for example, last year we issued 91, or this year we issued 91 licenses. But both the number of firms have gone down in recent years and the number of trucks.
Leah?
Do we know what the sticker fee is for other counties?
No.
Is that information you're going to want for the September Special Finance Committee?
I think so. I mean, if it's something where we're severely undercharging or we're, charging just right, that would be good to know.
Chris, did you have another question?
I did, thank you. The Champaign County Environmental Stewards is intending to kind of shoulder some of the household hazardous waste. Is there a chance that some of the costs for that household hazardous waste collection might find its way over to that group, or will that almost always be something the county's going to be contributing to?
Well, one question I have for the stewards is once they have their facility operating, and this is something I don't know, will they be able to actually charge fees for things? We can't charge fees at this point. So if they can charge fees, that will be a huge help. If they can assume all of the household hazardous waste, then that would take roughly $3,000 or $4,000 off of our solid waste budget.
If they're charging and the IEPA or the county collection that we have a couple times a year does not, that would kind of be a conflict. Would we, because one group's charging, the other is not.
Well, I'm assuming that if they're able to take household hazardous waste, I would hope we would no longer have to have our one-day-a-year event. It would be more convenient for everybody, have better results, and everything we're spending on the one day could, go to help support that, depending on how their fees work out.
Stephanie? Sorry. JJ?
Just thinking about these fees, would it be appropriate to have this on our next ELUC agenda to talk about?
As soon as we can have it on an ELUC agenda, we need to, because if we're going to have these fees in place for 2025,
Exactly.
we're coming up against the deadline.
Consider that my request.
Stephanie?
Recognizing that even if we have them on the ELUC agenda, the chance of them going up $110, I mean, they hadn't gone up for how long before we bumped them to 35?
I think more than 10 years.
Yeah, like years, right? I do think, I mean, the difference between, this is one of the things I think we all hear from our constituents the most about. It like fills up and, it's super popular. The difference between what they spend and what they bring in is 10 grand, which in the grand scheme of the county budget is not that right for the impact it has on our community. And until we figure out this fee schedule and until we find out, this new facility gets up, I think we need to just make up the difference, to be honest. Like this is super important. And like long-term, we'd like to get it balanced out, but I don't know. Can we put this on the decision point thing? Yeah, because just to me, for $10,000 for how popular and important, and Mr. Storr will tell us the long-term problems if we let this waste get into our water. Sorry, people.
I've heard so many stories, including, complaints from the state's attorney about prosecuting people dumping.
Can I just suggest that maybe in the fee increase consideration, we look at like a 5-year plan? So you don't go to 100, but we know over 5 years we're slowly getting it up somewhere in that range, because I think, sure, we have some ARPA money left. We could absolutely support this for the next year or two, but I don't know if that's our long-term goal, so. And maybe by then the actual facility will be open, so.
All right, thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right, next is Board of Review. John's coming forward, thank you.
Hello. The Board of Review tried to keep its budget flat, but because the Property Tax Appeal Board changed the venue where they will be holding their hearings rather than coming to us, they're mandating we come to Springfield. So that's the reason for our increase. It's just adding to our travel budget. Any questions? Yes.
We gave you some money for some software recently, and have you guys implemented that yet? And if so,
Yeah, yes, this will be
how's
the
it worked?
first complaint season that we're making use of it for complaints that are made directly to us and then for the Property Tax Appeal Board cases that we're having.
So you expect maybe to save some money, or
Pardon me?
do you expect to save some money, or?
As I always say, we're statutorily obliged to find full fair market value, so it will help us to keep people honest and find full fair market value on property. So if you look at it from the aspect of people not being able to get their assessments lowered because we're keeping them honest, then yes, we're saving money. Yes. Any other questions?
John, I think your increase in travel is certainly justified. I know we talked about it quite a bit, so.
Yes. All right.
Thank you much. I do appreciate you making sure you try to stay as flat as possible.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Thanks much.
Okay.
Next up would be supervisor assessments. Paula?
Hello, everybody. We kept our budget flat also. We didn't ask for any increase. We have legal notices. We're expecting 25,500 publications. Our new construction was over 90 million this year. If Baywa gets built, that will be a big number in future years. 50% of my salary is reimbursed by the state. I did put in a budget request for you to consider looking at my salary, and that's included in your packets. And I would appreciate any consideration you would give to that. Does anyone have any questions?
Stephanie?
Two. First of all, I've seen the analysis of your salary and how it compares in any way, shape, and form to like counties, and we just, quite frankly, need to do something. And my second question is the 50%, if we did increase it, they would take a bigger piece. Yeah, I'd like to see this on the decision-making thing. I think we should have had this on the decision-making thing last year. I feel like maybe the main reason we didn't is because you gave us some grace. But I've seen the numbers, and it's a previous board member, Wayne Williams, did a deep dive analysis on comparables for your position, and we are not even, to be blunt, in the ballpark.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Especially for the exemplary work that you've done and the service you've done to the county. I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any further? Yes, go ahead. Jamala.
Hi.
I just don't see the request, so do we have it, or is it in the book?
Is it?
Oh, I just don't know what it is. I don't see it.
If not, we'll send it out with the whole list email tomorrow,
Okay.
or this week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the Office of Auditor.
Good evening. The Office of the Auditor also has maintained a flat profile. It's not hard to see why. 94% of the total budget, it comes from salary, so whatever we're doing to salaries, we're doing to my budget. The remaining 6% is just for incidental expenses like office supplies, conferences, which we have not done in recent years. And we're responsible for certain fines associated with the banks, so that if they ever overcharge us, we've got the incentive to make that phone call and reduce, reverse a duplication, for example. My two highlights, I did cover them. Yeah, the auditor's office revenue, that amount I've also left flat, because if the overall budget is flat for salary, then the amount that we bill out is likely to be very similar. But we do charge the independent funds, so RPC, highway, and mental health. If those departments take up a larger percentage of all the transactions, then you could see us having a higher revenue line. Other than that, I just don't see any change.
Questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is the treasurer collector. CJ, welcome.
Good evening, folks. So we actually have seen a variation in our budget a little bit for a number of reasons. The first being that initially we had programmed that there would be a decrease in fines and things like that with the automated notices we were sending to folks. That didn't happen. So that revenue that was initially listed as like going down, it actually went back up. So that's the reason why you see a little bit more in the revenue column, just because at the end of the day, we expected individuals to be more excited about getting notifications. Didn't work. So here we are. So it is what it is. Aside from that, you see the increase in expenditure, and that's because we, through a conversation with Admin Services Executive Team, decided to move the part-time staff to the general fund to try and help this fund to get healthy. I think I said in the last budget meeting, it was depleted. It's actually up to about 27K right now, but if over the next year we allow for a little bit of less expenditure out of that fund, we can actually see it getting up to about 40K, which will be a healthy fund. And then we can talk about, hey, doing more of our automated processing and things like that through that fund as opposed to begging you guys for money. So it is what it is. Okay, I did want to say thank you to you folks for actually giving us the account clerk position. It will help to alleviate some of the issues. It does not eliminate the issues is the problem. The position I requested was specifically to allow for that separation of duties that we keep on getting dinged for on our audits, to kind of allow us to have a little bit more flexibility and freedom to kind of move around and focus on other projects that need to kind of like happen over the next year or so. Included in that is the implementation of the new financial system, because again, that wasn't done when we initially moved over. Over the next 4 or 5 months or so, we're going to be actually amping up for that. We do have the part-time folks that will be coming on when that implementation is being done. However, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to kind of play a balancing act between that implementation and then carrying on with the normal day-to-day duties of the office. So that additional position, I'm still requesting it because it's still needed for that map that I was talking about with having that separation of duties and things like that. So we'll see how it goes from there. Questions about general funds?
Chris.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Hi, I noticed that there's no, under conferences and training, you don't have anything for last year or the coming year.
The conferences and training it was kind of spread between the automation fund and the general fund. And realistically, because we've been able to decrease the amount of money that we're spending on professional services, for example, the lockbox has actually gone down. Last year, we paid like something like $40,000 for mailing bills, and now we're down to like 30-something. So we've actually been able to do some cost savings where we haven't had to request additional budget because we were able to adjust from professional services to those trainings and things like that.
Stephanie.
Do we have that additional staff request in the packet? I didn't see it.
was.
Sorry.
I just
It's in
looked
there,
at it.
okay, I
It
might have
was.
just missed
It
it.
was in there.
All right.
No
And
worries.
this is what, at some point, what we were saying last night is, what do these fall between if we get public safety and if not? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
And-
that's the big thing, and I haven't said that tonight, so I did want to say that.
That is 100% understood on my part. So I recognize that if it doesn't happen, hey, we have to deal with
Right.
whatever we have.
Right.
Again, former military, I'm used to working with what I got, but
Right.
at the same time, you can't expect from my successor, or whoever, to actually do the same thing.
I agree.
So-
And you know that I want to get this done.
got you.
And it's a big priority for me.
I got you.
And that separation of duties is incredibly important. I also wanted to just say, I applaud you and admin getting the automation fund back up. That was 2 treasurers ago. It got decimated for the people that weren't on the board back then. We need to get that right, and if it's a year, that means we need to put those expenses onto the general fund to get that fund balance right. It's overdue. So, I mean, we need to get that fund balance right. Sure. And there's no way you're ever gonna dig out of it unless we move the expenses at some point. So we gotta do it sometime, so, but I've been very uncomfortable with that. I mean, it's a little bit better than it was, but,
I'm like, imagine living it.
yeah, so thank you, and, yeah, let's keep talking.
I will say that there was one thing that I didn't actually list on here was the cash pickup. That was a new request, and I don't remember if we said it was going to go on our line, if it was going to go on admins, but I did put it in.
I think we put it in yours because you'll be
Okay,
managing the
that's fine,
project.
no worries. So with the sheriff not having the manpower to continually support cash pickups for the clerk's office, circuit clerk, our office, I did reach out to a couple of the vendors through the Treasurers Association who actually do that pickup for those offices. We got like a guesstimate at about $25K. And again, guarantee that it may go up or down depending on how many boxes and how many locations we have pickups. But that is something you have to consider just because, like I said, if the sheriff can't support, we should have someone armed, hopefully, to actually secure the funds, especially with the amount of cash that we bring in. We have to have that, some sort of security with transferring those things from where we're at. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no problem transferring because I don't feel like anyone's going to try and take no money from me. But at the same time, it's in your best interest to make sure you consider that as well so that we have the money in place or where it needs, have the money going where it needs to go.
So just to clarify, we just put that in the budget. We've been putting the sheriff off for, I think, at least 2 years at this point, and felt like we just needed to prioritize this. And moving into the new building seemed like a good time to figure out where the boxes would go and just get them installed, so.
Any further questions on this budget? Okay, moving on to the collector working cash fund.
Okay, so just so you guys are aware, this working cash fund it's again, borrowing power fund. Basically, if we have like a short-term fund need or funding need that's not being met, we have the ability to borrow from it. It does cap out every year, we bring it back down to $377K roughly. So everything that you see as far as ingress, egress is really usually related to interest. Nothing else nothing is being bought or paid for. It's just, hey, revenue comes in, at the end of the year, we put it in the general fund. So it's one of those type of deals. But it is there for, in the event that you have a short-term cash flow issue, it is there to borrow against, but very short-term. Keep that in mind. Any questions?
Questions?
Okay.
A little bit more on automation fund.
Wow. So this is the fund that we were talking about that was depleted. And just the reason why we're actually moving away is because, hey, it's not doing so great. So normally or traditionally, we would pay for computers, new equipment, and things like that out of this fund. Admittedly, because of like the adjustments and the issues that we've had with antiquated equipment in our office order, we've actually, because of decreasing the cost that we've actually been paying towards some of our other items in the general fund, some of that money has been going towards getting us newer, better equipment so that we actually are functioning a little bit better. Justified because, again, while tax automation does take up a large portion of our time, or tax-related items takes up a large portion of our time, we do, again, all the individuals in there fall under Treasury, and all the equipment that's being used is used for Treasury as well as collector, so we're good to go there, in case y'all worry about that. Questions?
Not seeing any. Property tax interest fee.
Okay. So this is another fund similar to 2010 or 2610, the working cash fund, where at the end of the year, once we cap out at 100,000, anything over 100,000 goes to general fund. So when I listed these funds, they were based off of what I was seeing as far as near actuals at the time. So probably by the end of the year, we'll have about 50K that'll end up going back to the general fund, and this will go back down to 100,000. This is supposed to go towards paying those interests, like those PTAB decisions where we have to give them interest and things like that. That's where this is supposed to come from. Now, with the new automated system, the financial system, we'll be able to more clearly track those things, because in the past that hasn't been tracked anywhere near the way it should be. So hopefully that'll work out. Fingers crossed. Questions?
Not seeing any. Tax indemnity fund, which is building up a bit. Good.
So the indemnity, that should be 489. I don't know, it's 2, but okay. So the indemnity fund, we recreated this or whatever because we were more concerned about making sure that if someone requested indemnity from the courts, it was coming specifically from that fund and not being billed against any other funding within the county. Because, hey, a court case comes through, we get a decision, we have to pay it pretty quickly. This was intended to make sure that anything that's related to indemnity is strictly in the indemnity pot, as opposed to going to our regular tort immunity stuff, whatever, and it's a way to basically make sure that we actually have a limit on how much someone can take away from us in this particular area. We didn't see as much in and out as we thought, but that's a good thing to a certain extent, because it means we get to build it up. Once we get to $1 million, we move everything to the general fund anyway. We're sitting at right now at about $500,000. So.
Questions, comments? Stephanie?
Yeah.
What we have in our books isn't what's up there, and it's also not, it seems really different. So I just was curious about that.
In all honesty, it could be based on when I actually did these numbers.
Right,
And I could be the problem here. I'm not going to say one way or another.
Okay.
Because I did each of these different elements at different times.
Okay, so it might have been
could be
like the
slightly different
snapshot from
numbers, yeah.
that day. Okay.
Thank you very much, CJ.
All right, have a nice night.
All right. County Clerk and Recorder, Clerk Ammons.
All right. Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? All right, that's a little dry. How y'all doing? It's a sexy night. Everybody should be having a good time tonight, right? Talking about the money. All right. I just want to start off by saying I did not keep everything flat. I will be asking for at least 15 new positions. Oh, everybody looks so sad about that. I thought we had plenty of that to go around. Okay, all right, let's get down to it. Let's see. Make sure I got the right page here. All right, here we go. So under our highlights for 2025, we're looking at 2 elections, anticipating 2 elections, a primary and a general consolidated election. I know a lot of folks are working hard to make sure it's just a general election, but we may end up with a primary election also, so we have to be prepared for that. In 2024, the office completed the digitization project of vital records, in particular the archives. This was a large-scale digitization project, and it was funded by ARPA. So we certainly do appreciate the support of the board to get that done. It has meant a lot to the office and the workflow in the office. So these archives were moved into a vendor-supported database called APEX. And this migration and digitization of data allowed us to streamline online record requests while preserving the fragile documents that we have in our possession. And in 2024, we were awarded another award, a trophy, through the Illinois Association of Clerk and Recorders for the most online records processed for a large-scale county. So this APEX process has been meant a lot to us, streamlining a lot of the work that we do in the office. So we certainly do appreciate that. And I never want to miss the opportunity to shout out Rita, Kelly, Hannah, and those folks in the Vitals Division for all the work that they do. Are we moving on to next ones? Are we asking
Any
questions at each
questions
stage?
here? Stephanie?
Yes, ma'am.
You just got to bring that trophy to some board meetings. I want to see what is this thing? A trophy for the most online records processed looks like.
Yes,
Real
indeed.
bad.
Right.
I wanna
It might
see
be
what
too
that
big
looks
to get
like.
into the room. It's pretty big, you know. Yes, indeed. We will bring that hardware. It is a real thing. Yeah. Say that again. And give me a card. I would need that. I'm definitely gonna need that.
I think there's a little irony that there's a physical trophy for the award of online record requests.
See, I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna let that go.
I'm just
leave
saying
that
there's some
alone.
irony there. There's some irony.
Yes, indeed, I agree. But they have, it's meant a lot to the process, especially with a lot of the old records that we have in there. They don't have to be handled as much, and we're looking forward to cleaning up some of that as we move forward over to the Bennett Center.
Can I interrupt you one more time? Sure. I also just think it's a really excellent demonstration of accessibility because people can now request their records from you without actually having to come to your office.
Yes.
So if transportation, mobility, whatever, they get all the same services from the clerk's office as if they had to go to the office. And, you know, a goal for a lot of our offices to be able to get to someday, but would take a lot of scanning. So.
Stephanie?
In all seriousness, you know this ARPA, like, nice looking, what we did with the money thing that we talked about? I'd like to see a picture of that trophy in there. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's a hard thing for people to wrap their heads around and like visually represent, and that might be a way to do it.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. Angie, you want to go grab? No, I'm just kidding. No. All right.
Any further questions on this fund? Not seeing any. The surcharge fund looks pretty self-explanatory. I don't know. There's a lot to say about that one. Election assist grant,
Let's see.
accessibility grant, sorry.
All right. Try to get my paperwork together here. All right. Yes. All right, so the Election Assistance Accessibility Grant is used as a repository for revenues associated with various grants and is utilized to offset the costs to the county for administering elections. So since I got here, our previous administration, they used some of that money, but we've definitely really taking advantage of this money, trying to do everything that we possibly can to take any pressure off the general fund for the county. And this money has meant a lot to us and through our processing services. So we look forward to collecting the money, growing every year, every opportunity that we get. And so it has meant a lot for several different reasons. I can get into some of it here shortly. But for 2024, the State Board of Election processed some back reimbursements for us that we had from prior fiscal years, and that's helping us catch up to our current year reimbursements. We anticipated reimbursements will be for the license and maintenance of the voter registration system, temporary staff, postage, printing of voter registration cards, election security, cybersecurity, et cetera. With the cybersecurity, this is something that although we maintained everything this year to keep it flat, I intend to come to you all next month, I believe, to share with you some of the concerns that we see every day around cybersecurity. The attempts by bad actors to access the website or to cause disruption is a daily task that Tunde has to try to fight off, and it increases exponentially depending on what's happening around elections in particular. So that has helped us quite a bit to be able to offset some of those costs for cybersecurity. In 2025, we're anticipating another $185,000 for IVRS and $25,000 in polling place accessibility funding. So again, we're going to try to do everything that we can to help out and to not have to put a drain on the general fund. So this grant funding cycle does not line up. This is one of the issues that we've been dealing with, and I have to say that Angie has been dealing with for the most part. As I shout out to staff, I got to show love for Chief Patton because she handles all of this grant work primarily. And so the fiscal years don't line up. So we go from year to year, from January to December or whatever, from one cycle, and then we go from June to July and another cycle. So it calls some offset, and she's got to really pay attention to this every year. So the cycles don't line up, and it's covered under 2 fiscal years. July 1, 2024 through June 25 will be the next grant cycle, and the funding awards will be announced in August or September of this year. Any
Questions? Not seeing any. Moving on to one of the great automation funds that we've seen so many of. So trying to build it up where it'll actually purchase something.
automation fund? Where we at? Clerk one? All right.
Yes, clerk automation.
This automation fund, unlike the other one, so this automation fund is used to supplement office operations, but the long-term objective is to build the fund up so that we can have a sufficient balance and so that the automation fund can be used for large-scale capital. So when I first came in, we had a little more of a fund, and we were able to buy computers, laptops that we used as poll books at the polling locations, so that was helpful. And this will improve operational efficiencies and services, including the elections. And the automation fund is funded by surcharges, and the fund balance has been spent down over previous years to supplement general corp operations and personnel.
Questions? Seeing none, go on to recorder side. Oh, I'm sorry, Stephanie.
I know that this is not practical under the current, budget constraints that we have, and as much as I made fun of these funds last night, I think one of the goals of the county should be, not just for this fund, but across the board, if we do pass public safety sales tax, is to get operation costs off of the automation funds as much as humanly possible, to allow these funds to function how they're supposed to. I just wanted to put that out there, but I do think that should be a financial policy goal that we should have. I know that's not possible right now under the landscape that we live in, but if we do get some budgetary flexibility, that's something I'd like to see. If we're going to have these funds, it would be nice if they could function how they're intended to instead of basically being a support for operations. So that's mostly for admin, because I mean, there's not, right now you're just trying to balance your budget, and you're by no means the only person that has operation stuff on it, but I think that should be one of our long-term goals.
One of the things that's different about the two automation funds is so this one, and I don't know if the state's attorney or someone's here to help explain this legally, but this one we were not able to do personnel type of activities out of, but the automation fund for the recorder's office in the past, it was used in that way, and I agree that it certainly should not be used in that capacity.
Again.
We were able, through the ARPA money, to address a lot of our long-term technology needs, but if we don't do something, do you know what I'm saying? I do think that I'm not going to be on the board anymore when this happens, but down the road, we're just going to have that big pile up again, right? And so I think thinking about structurally how we can try to support those technology needs would be good. And, and it's, 20,000 here, 20,000 there, but if we could try to get that back to automation. But again, under the budget scheme we have right now, it's not possible. We're using those funds to keep the lights on to some degree. I mean, within the parameters of what's allowed, but there are, and this was a big issue years ago in the circuit clerk's office, and so, yeah.
Well, and that feeds into the CARF conversation that Travis has brought up that we need to have over the next couple of months, because throughout this process, we found that there's a lot of CARF items that are not on the CARF budget, and the clerk's poll books is an excellent example. It's 200 laptops. There's no plan to finance replacement. There's no schedule to replace chunks at a time, and they were purchased out of this fund. This fund could not replace them again, and they're all on the same life cycle because they were all bought at the same time. So yes to all you're saying, and also there's a much bigger conversation of what have these funds been used to purchase that should be on the capital asset replacement fund, or we should at least be aware that need to be on the capital asset replacement fund, or that we are specifically saying it's not because the automation money is going to be held to pay for that. And that hasn't just really been formalized, I think, to the degree that we all need to see it. So CARF, we're going to be talking about CARF so much.
Dr. Owen.
Thanks, Claire. I'm just going to keep diving into this because I kind of need a little bit more of a visual. I think you did a great job of explaining for me as a newbie. You're the one that kind of explained what this fund should be, right?
Okay.
It needs to be, as you said, large scale capital, large scale technology purchases, not laptops, not computers, not personal things. Can you give me an example from your office, what one of those capital or large-scale purchases might look like?
Another opener for, as vote by mail grows, that might be a large-scale purchase. And if it grows even higher, we can spend another $280,000 on another sorting machine. So, but those are a couple of ideas around what would be important. I wouldn't say that I disagree with the poll books. So, we're coming up to the end of a contract with our current vendor. So we'll be taking bids or taking, presentations from other vendors. And many of the vendors out there have poll books that come with their service. So laptops may not work. So that's the type of I wouldn't say it's a large scale like development type of thing, but it could be a pretty penny that something that this fund could be able to help with.
It could be a large-scale purchase.
Yeah,
And
absolutely,
that
absolutely.
idea about, having dealt with this in the school district, that idea of having a refresh policy that the board then has to stick to. And somebody has to hold the board's feet to the fire to say, we always need this refreshment policy because things like that, poll books, like they're critical for you to do your job and for our elections to be running smoothly.
Absolutely.
If they're 2 years out of date and they're starting to get buggy, that's horrible. And just because I'm speaking, so I guess the camera's on me.
That was the first one. They
first
made
one.
them a little bigger the
Right,
second year.
Right, I like that. I like that. This is the 2002 highest ORO volume.
22,
for large county.
2022.
What'd I say?
Yeah, it should be 22.
It's 22. 2022. And then this one is the 2023. Same. This is the, Fiddler Choice Awards.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. That's right. Fiddler Choice Awards, and we're
Am I
going to win in
pronouncing
24
Fiddler
also.
correctly? Because it's getting better.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
All right.
And congratulations on these.
All right, we're going to the next
Any
one.
other questions? If not, we can move on to the recorder's side.
All right. Let's see. So, oh no, I just did that one. Trying to get all this stuff right here. I'm on recorder. That's automation. All right. All right, so recorder side, in 2024, we moved the office over to Laredo Connect, which is basically the online version for billing. So we streamlined billing and web access for the customers. Billing is handled directly, so invoices do not need to be sent via postal mail. The clerk and recorder's office is still seeing an increase in e-recordings, and the housing market is steady, which has resulted in a steady revenue stream for the county. So our office has also put significant efforts into the restrictive covenant project, which is gaining a lot of steam, a lot of attention. And for those of you who don't know, we actually had our first person come in last week to strike the language. So we've already started the process. We have one down, 18 more to go. So that was really exciting. But we've put a lot of effort into that project. And we're utilizing the interns to research and help develop the goals set forth by the working group. This project has allowed the office to connect and educate homeowners who may have restrictive covenant language in their property records. And to find out more about the project, of course, you can visit the website for more information. We are also currently in talks, I would say tangential talks with the executive office about the digitization project for the recorder's office as well, so we can protect those records as we prepare for the move to the Bennett Center. Any
Any questions from anybody? Stephanie?
Just a point of information. I guess it's kind of on the next slide, but the automation fund, actually, that automation fund is healthy. Would digitization be eligible under that, or is that is eligible? Okay, I just wanted to ask that question. Okay.
I believe so. I think we got like $1.30 that we can put towards. Nobody found that funny. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll leave that alone.
We're talking about it. Conversations are happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's very important. It needs to get done. A lot of the work inside the vault, the books are very heavy books. As we move to the Bennett Center, it's going to change a little bit how the vault is structured. So we want to have as little activity as possible with the ladies in the office having to try to deal with those heavy books or the people who are coming in doing searches. So the more that we can get done through the digitization project, the more we can preserve the documents that we have and make those searches a lot easier.
Anything else to add on the automation fund for recorder? Nope. All right. Thank you very much, Clerk Ammons.
All right, thank you all.
Appreciate
Have a
your
great
time.
evening.
All right. Next up is Information Technology, MC Neal.
All right, good evening, board. Here to discuss IT. We have a very basic budget. Our most exciting purchases come through CARF or ARPA, departments, automation funds. IT's budget, single budget, largely covers personnel, utilities, think internet, phone service, copier contracts, things of that nature. So single budget on a single slide. Of note, I do plan on coming in front of you all either next month or at October's COW, just to give a state of IT, let you know what we've been working on, what's coming ahead, things of that nature, what we've accomplished. So I'll be discussing some of those things, again, either next month or the month thereafter. But in regards to highlights for next year, we are requesting a new position. We're requesting an administrative assistant for IT. IT is one of the few offices across the county that does not have a dedicated administrative assistant. Right now, we have one that is shared with admin, and more things have been put on that person and in that position over the years, both from admin and IT. Just increased demands coming from both sides. So we're at the point where we really need a dedicated admin assistant for IT. Additionally, with a dedicated IT admin person, we can aim to bring someone in who has a bit more technical background and understanding, specialized knowledge, both for our just day-to-day task and potentially can even provide some basic IT support for folks. Again, this is going to be the person that's always going to be or would be sitting at the window, greeting everyone when they come in. So it'd be great if that person is able to do some basic things to help people. Oh, I locked out of my account. Can you reset my password? Oh, I can't get this simple thing done. So the hope or the aim would be to hire someone who does have a bit more technical skill or competency. To the second one, we are moving forward. We're replacing approximately half of the access points throughout all of our buildings that provide our Wi-Fi connectivity. Third, I know it's been mentioned both tonight and yesterday, we're moving forward with our second phase of the countywide digitization project. This one is going to include the recorder's office, the coroner's office, the assessor's office, and we are having a meeting next week to potentially see if we are able to get something worked out with Susan with the circuit clerk's office to potentially roll them into this as well. Tied with that project is another project of spinning up a countywide document management system, which right now we do not have. So that is going to be something that's in place once we get all of the scanned documentation back, having a platform that all the documents can be housed in. We can have retention policies to make sure files aren't getting edited or deleted prior to a certain length of time. So we are moving forward with that as well. And then lastly, it's the move to Bennett, to County Plaza. Everything related to moving over and redeploying all of our infrastructure. So our network backbone, all of our servers, wireless access points, all that stuff, getting everything moved over and ready for staff. And then, of course, the second wave of that would then be working with the departments to move over all of their staff and their computers and their phones and their copiers and making sure everything is working. So that would be a large project. Aside from that, I had two things related to budget. The first is just notice that services and subscriptions are bringing considerably higher costs year over year. Years ago, we used to budget for a modest 3% year over year increase. Right now, some of these vendors are around 12 or 13% year over year. Of course, that is compounded when we have a multi-year contract. So if we have a 5-year contract and over the course of those 5 years, they're increasing 12, 13% every year, we can find that the end of our current contract and the first year of the next contract, a 50 to 60% increase in our cost. Also on that note, a lot of companies are starting to go away from on-premise offerings, forcing people to go to the cloud. For those who are not aware, the cloud is just the platform or the software running on someone else's servers and infrastructure instead of ours. So over the years, we lean towards on-premise, just so, number one, we can have more control over the systems and the platforms as we're the ones managing it, more security, because again, all of our data and our information are sitting on our servers in our data center, but largely it was due to cost as well. The cost just to get a license to run something on-prem, and you're responsible for the server and the storage and the networking. We pretty much just give you a license, is significantly less than having something hosted in the cloud where they have to pay for the server and the bandwidth and the storage. There was one I was looking at, and the cost for about 2.5 years of cloud services would have gotten us close to 15 years of on-prem service and support and maintenance. And again, the companies realized this, that they could be bringing in quite a bit more with cloud, and so they're getting to the point where they're no longer licensing or allowing you to get maintenance or anything along those lines, or providing updates or upgrades for their on-prem products, forcing people to go to the cloud. And so this isn't anything in particular or specific to the 2025 budget. As you can see, I try to, I think this is the 3rd year now, I've tried to keep the IT budget as flat as possible, but more of a prediction of what will be coming in 2026 and beyond. We could, at that point, start seeing some pretty substantial increases in the needs of this IT budget line, as well as CARF and some other things. Secondly and finally, I know I mentioned it last year when I presented the 2024 budget, but IT wages continue to be an issue for hiring and retention. As a quick reminder, I spoke with a previous county executive about this when I first came on board about 4 years ago, presented some information from salary.com, glassdoor.com, all the places you can go and get specific wage information. I was told, hey, wait, we have a salary study coming. About 1.5 years later, the study came out, said IT was underpaid, and then the response I received was, study said a lot of people are underpaid. We don't have enough money to go around. We need to figure something out. Waited, reached out again, and was told we have another study coming out. I have not seen that study, but my assumption is that also is going to say that IT is underpaid. And so I know there is some hope that the sales tax will go through, and there might be some possibilities there. But I just want to say that even if that does not happen, we need to do something as far as IT is concerned. I keep being approached by my guys about this. We have vacancies we are trying to fill, and the only people who are who have the competency for the role are saying even the top of your pay scale is not enough for me. You know, it is. I've strived very hard. A couple of the things that people hate most about IT. One is bedside manner. Oh, I don't want to deal with IT. They talk down to me. They, look down to me. They're short with me. Things of that nature. And the other is, having IT people that just don't know what they're doing, and they're blaming you on your problem, or they take 4 or 5 times as long to fix the issue as they should. And so being able to make sure that we continue to staff competent people in the IT department who do have a good bedside manner, do have good customer service. They know their worth. Other organizations and agencies are starting to see that worth, and they're starting to pay more. And I just fear we're going to get in a situation where the county has one of those IT departments that people do not want to work with, and just because of the staff that we're going to have to get because of the amount of pay that we're offering for the position. So after that ray of sunshine, That was pretty much everything that I had. Again, I will be back, if not next month, October's COW, to share some more information about IT. But are there any questions?
Don.
Hi, MC. It's good to see you.
Hello, sir. You as well.
I loved the bedside manner, and while our time in that other workspace didn't overlap very long, you had great bedside manner as an IT director.
Thank you, sir.
One, I just want to say I'm incredibly impressed that you were able to keep the budget as flat as it is, given everything that's going on and the list of things that you talked about. I had just a couple questions. One is about the digitizing project. Is that something you're doing all in-house then?
That is not. So IT is managing the project. We're actually working with 2 different companies for that. So effectively, we work with them to coordinate, depending on the documentation, either doing on-site scanning. So we work to get space set up for them, network connectivity, things of that nature, get them able to do the on-site scanning, or they're able to take it off-site. We handle identifying the documentation, getting things labeled, identified, hand it off, we get it back, make sure everything is brought back correctly. And then we get the final, we get a portion of the scans that they've done. We go through, we review everything, we make sure all the documents are in the right orientation, they're the needed DPI, all that good stuff. And then we get the final dump of all of the data, get a storage set up on-prem for the departments to be able to access that. But right now, it's literally just a Windows file share that you just go to and all the documents are there.
Got it.
The document management system will be able to do OCR searching on the documents. You'll be able to tag documents, set up retention, all that good stuff.
Things like FOIA will be easier and that kind of stuff because you'll have OCR on the documents.
Absolutely.
Cool. I think that was it. I'm just gonna say that I completely agree with what MC says about paying tech staff appropriately. And I have also worked with other organizations who have had salary studies done, and it's really interesting, depending on the region, sometimes these consultants come back with undervalued numbers for tech staff. And it's really strange because I know, working with people in CS over at the university, I know what tech staff can get pretty much right out of the gate. And so I'm just gonna put a plug in there, and appreciate your presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Stephanie.
Yeah, I think that last point is important. We, are in a community where we have this giant university that pays their tech staff very well. And so our market is not typical, right? 2 things. One, let me be clear, not this year, not during the budget process, but I would like maybe to see you and Travis work together. I think we have a hard time with the software licensures to have a broad picture of it because we get the conversation in pieces and dribs and drabs. So I think what would be super helpful is I don't know, what would be practical to go back and look at, but maybe a 3-year trend analysis where we could just see the landscape of all of this across the county. And because this is something I think, I know it's something in my department at my job we've talked about, is that things that used to cost $20,000 are now $50,000 for the licensure, kind of overnight. You're and they're kind of what you gonna do about it? You got to have the software, right? So I think that would be super helpful, not while we're doing this budget, but for the future conversation, maybe in early 2025, that kind of trends analysis I think would be super helpful. The other thing, you had mentioned yesterday, admin, that the copier contract, our Xerox contract is coming up. Is that coming up in just so I understand the timing?
That is coming up spring of next year.
So it wouldn't probably be implemented until 2026? Because it seems like that line is flat, and I know that's not how the world works, so.
Speaking with our current vendor, who we may not stay with, they are confident that we would be able to sustain that amount, so.
I want to say, the state's attorney's office brought up that individual, and I do support the need. I want her folks and all of her folks to be able to make copies when they need to. I also worry that personal printers could be a very slippery slope, because if we give them to one office, all of the offices are going to want that, look at them. So I want to address that issue, but I also want to think about, like, maybe we need to address it through our master contract. Do you know what I mean? And actually get them the software, or the hardware, I'm sorry, that they need. And so I just wanted to, I've been thinking a lot about that since yesterday. I absolutely want her attorneys to be able to make the copies they need, but what is the best mechanism to get that done? I feel like you're going to be really pivotal to that.
Yes, ma'am. Literally was over there last week speaking with them about it. I'm waiting on some information. They have been experiencing some issues with our current machines, which are through Xerox. So I will be working, so IT manages all the Xerox copiers, so we work very closely with their support, and some of the things I was hearing was concerning. So I'm waiting on some additional information. Hopefully it's something that we can remedy. If not, their office and one other office in particular has been having some concerns with the Xerox units, which is why I say we may not be staying with them, but going with another vendor. But I completely agree, giving staff each individual printers on their desk is not ideal. It can be a slippery slope.
I also feel like it's like an $8,000 Band-Aid on maybe what's a bigger problem. Like, maybe that would solve it in the short term, but is that actually, I mean, she has more than 4 attorneys, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so that, I'd rather that we get it right. I still want to fix it, but that we get it right.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yes, we do still have the AS400. Yeah.
That wasn't my question, but
Okay, all right.
thank you. Please send it my regards.
Oh, it's alive and well. It's doing great.
Oh, dang it. Now I just,
I'm sorry, I threw you off.
Computer security.
Yes.
Could you, should we wait until your cow thing to talk about that? Which I hope will be in October, because I'm going to miss September.
If you wouldn't mind, sir, if you can wait, I will wait until October until you get back. And security is one of the things I'm going to be touching upon in that presentation in depth.
Thank you. Is there any, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Further questions? I do want to add, the point about compensation is a very big concern for me. We look at, it's not nearly the same size as our sheriff's department, but we were in a position where we would hire good people, we would train them, and then they would leave. And if we don't keep up on our pay grades, we'll be hiring people at lower grades, they'll be with us for a little while, and then they'll be able to leave. And that's not cost effective for us in terms of maintaining our workforce. Anyway.
Completely agree. And not saying any other department is more important than any other, but thinking of things along the lines of the security of the county and the infrastructure and the network and the data. You know, if you end up getting people in that are green and they don't know what they're doing, and, you know, Lord forbid we have a breach or, you know, a ransomware attack or things along that line, because the people who we have in those roles didn't really have the experience or the competency or the training to do what was needed, or to see something was a problem before it was able to be exploited. You know, it's those small things that you may just think, oh, we get some bodies in IT, we can train them up. IT is really more of a art than anything. You can attempt to bring someone in and train them. It's going to be a toss-up as to whether or not it sticks. And as mentioned, sometimes even if it does stick, once they realize, oh, I can go 2 miles down the road and get an extra $15,000 a year, they will follow the money, regardless of how much I try to make working for me like Disneyland. You know, I know people have obligations, they have bills to pay, and so, yeah, it's a bit between a rock and a hard place.
Thank you, MC.
I just
Go
want to
ahead,
add,
Michelle.
you know, on that note, when the CrowdStrike issue happened, MC was in an airport, so he had like the worst of it than all of us. But his team here, within a matter of hours, had the courthouse back up and running, and then the jail, and then the sheriff. Like, the prioritization and the ability to look at what CrowdStrike was doing and apply that problem to our specific systems and get our most essential systems back up and running was just, like, for the size of a team that we have, was, I mean, for a non-IT person, was just kind of amazing to see. So I think that, you know, there's the public safety sales tax conversation, and a big part of that needs to be building the IT department that the county actually needs, because, you know, that one CrowdStrike thing took the entire county down. We had nothing. We were doing nothing.
Yes, go ahead, Leah.
I just kind of wanted to go off of what Michelle just said, except from an IT perspective. I spent too many years working network admin and IT services at Pillsbury World Headquarters. And the way you guys your people just handled that, and it was very impressive. I was really happy to see it. So thank you, and thank your team.
Thank you, ma'am. As Aaron was up here giving kudos, I will give kudos to Mr. Tim Breen, IT manager. As mentioned, I was away at the last bit of getting a certification, so I was out of state trying to fly back when everything hit. But Tim was here, led the team, came up with the plan of attack. I think he was here a few months ago getting his 35-year pin, so we are very fortunate to have him.
As we were fortunate to have you. Thank you, MC.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, Dana, you've been sitting back there for a long time. Hopefully you're getting some feeling back in your feet.
Hi there. Everybody awake? I'll put you to sleep. Okay. Well, another exciting year. Revenue-wise, we're down just a little bit, but we did have a lease that is not being renewed. The Park District will be leaving Brookins at the end of this fiscal year. Don't have anybody on the line if we want to rent, but we probably need to have a bigger discussion in the near future about what we need to do with Brookins. 50% of it, once we move out of here, you know, really only RPC and the Attorney General's office and mental health and the Veterans Agency will be here. So we need to either look for other renters or we need to consider unloading the building. So the reason it's not down the complete numbers that we're losing from the Park District is obviously there's been rental increases on an annual basis with the renters that are here. So in terms of expenses, I'm asking for, first time actually, that we've enlarged or wishing to enlarge our staff. I'd like to hire another custodian. Since we still have Brookins ongoing, we've got a 90,000 square foot office building we'll be moving into. We're going to need another full-time custodian. And beyond that, Elias has put $3 million into the old nursing home. They're going to want more assistance over there than a half-time position. So I think we can accommodate, depending on what the decision is with Brookins, down the road with just one staff member. The additional funding is to really transfer from capital funds from this current year to next year to finish off the elevator project at Bennett. So that's, other than that, it's a flat budget. Not made any increases, so.
Stephanie.
I just want to make sure, my understanding is the additional custodian is in this budget already, correct?
The custodian and the treasurer's account clerk that was approved last month are already in the budget for next year. And those are the only two personnel positions that are in the budget.
Yeah, okay. And I also just, thank you for everything, Dana.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Are you sure you don't want to add another large building project for 2025?
I think I've done enough large building projects.
Well, we've driven you to retirement, so. But yes, also thank you. I appreciate everything you've done in putting this together, and it looks really good to me. And like you said, the custodian's already in there, but that makes absolute sense with adding a large building to our passel of properties here, so.
JJ.
Hi, Dana. I'm just curious, what's the status on demolition of the really old nursing home? When is that eyesore going to be gone?
That's a good question. We are, next month, this September, going to go through our capital project list and update that again. It is on the list for next fiscal year to be taken down. But we haven't finished the Bennett building yet, the jail, so we'll kind of see what's happening. Our goal is to do that next year. At a minimum, we need to remove at least about 40 feet of the structure that connects to the 73 building, which is what they're using, and then board it up. Obviously, we've taken out the fire suppression system in there. It still has an alarm system. It's got holes all over it. It's really in awful shape. If the groundhogs can't get in, the squirrels and the raccoons have. We've got dozens of families living in the upper floor. So, but the floor itself on the second floor is about ready to collapse. So we've posted signs, told the fire department. Nobody's allowed up on the second floor, and anybody going in there, we have a tremendous mold problem. That's why the building's really been condemned for all intents purposes. We can't even really get in and salvage any of the wood or some of the unique features from that early construction period. So, which is a shame, but it is what it is at this point.
And then the other project I was wondering about is, I know we're doing as much of the old Humane Society building. We're going to do as much of that as possible in-house. Any idea on when that may be happening?
We've got a couple things we've got to accomplish first. I need to get one more price from a local company. We have a mold problem in that building. It's not as bad as the old nursing home. It's really confined into the 2 dog areas. So for whatever reason, the air handler systems that were replaced there put the insulation for the air ducts on the inside of the vents. Probably sounded like a great idea. In actuality, it's the worst thing you could do because you can't clean them. So, and they're full of mold. So we've got to take that out, and then we've got to, have a company come in and take care of the mold issue on the floor and the wall. So once we do that, we can actually get back in the building and do some things. Initially, I think we'll set up their public area and get them behind some counters and some glass, and so they feel more safe when the public does come in, and then get into the building. We've had the HVAC system looked at thoroughly, and it's got a pretty good price tag on it. But the system that they have there can last for a few years. So it's got air conditioning, which they currently don't have. So we'll get into a few things yet this year, and hopefully get them in by the end of the year.
Okay. And then don't celebrate too much as on your way out. Don't celebrate too much, Thank you for everything you've done.
Aaron.
Quick question, Dana. On the rental agreements for Brookins here, do we have what's the farthest out that we have as far as, is it like till the end of 2025? Do we have some already that far out?
I think there's one till 26, but there's an out clause.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so that was just a question.
I believe the longest one is 26.
I know there are out clauses, so I'm just wondering without utilizing that. And then just also thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments? Not seeing any. Dana, thank you so much. You know, I deeply appreciate the work that you've done for the county. All right, moving on, administrative services. Michelle.
Okay, first of all, my apologies. I've been a little focused on other things, and I didn't do the slide very well, and I also didn't do my position requests or MCs, which I told him I would do, but I will get those in the full list that we send you by the end of the week. So for this real fast, we don't have an increase. What ends up happening is we have the postage budget for the whole county, which includes all of the clerk's election mailings and the treasurer's bill mailings. So we always budget that safely to make sure there's no issue with getting funds to pay for the mailings. So we never really spend the entire amount of the postage budget. So what you're seeing here in this difference between 24 expenditure and 25, again, is not an increase, it's the savings from the budgeted 24 postage. We did reduce the budget a little bit for postage for the coming year because the clerk does not have a whole primary and a whole presidential general election. He just has the consolidated, but we, again, didn't want to cut it too much because the postage is always a situation where they need the check right now. Like, I don't know how, but it's just, they always need the check a week after they told you. So it's just one of those accounts where we just keep it safely healthy and then just expect a return back to the general fund at the end of the year. That's really the only change for the administrative fund, is just that postage variation. And again, we just knocked that down from 24 was budgeted at 325,000. We budgeted at 250,000 for 25. I know we've talked a lot about salaries. I am requesting that we have a closed study session in October to go over the comp data. I have very detailed data about pay grades, pay rates. It's not stuff we want to discuss in public, but I do want us to have some solid time to present it, to dig into it, and really talk about what it would look like, especially if we get the public safety sales tax, what we could possibly do with that. So please plan on, in October, us having that study session at the end of the month, and it'll be on the comp stuff. And then another piece before we move on, so the Labor Management Health Insurance Committee did meet yesterday and is making a recommendation for the health reimbursement arrangement option. We'll talk in detail in September about what that looks like and what that's going to cost the county, but essentially we just dodged a 12% increase to our premium. So that's it right there. Like that's huge, and could either make a difference in our budget, or we could think about some creative ways to get more families onto our plan, which is our long-term solution to avoiding these ridiculous premium increases every single year. But again, we'll get into all the details of that probably at the COW, because it'll come through finance as a money issue.
Questions?
I got one thing to add to that on that 12% savings. It is a 12% savings, but it comes with some risk to the county of funding certain things, so it's not just a free 12% savings.
Okay, not seeing any. Let's move on to county board budget.
Okay, and again, my apologies. I did not update something in pads, so it's not like this. In professional services, the 130,000 should actually be 18,000. So that's a significant decrease there. And we'll obviously get that corrected for an accurate amount. Not many changes in this. The personnel is maintaining our project manager for the Munis implementation for 6 months into the new year. We've been working, MC and the other Tim in IT have been working closely to transition that project away from a separate project manager into IT wholly, but with the decision and the ability to bring on the general ledger program for the treasurer's office, we don't want to cut off that project management too fast. We're also still working on the HR implementation of the Munis portion that we have had for a while and haven't been able to do much with. We're making progress, but I was really hoping to have that done by the end of this year, but that's not going to happen. But we'll be much farther along than we are by the end of the year. And then just as a reminder, the regular full-time employee is the grant coordinator. So that's that money there. I did increase, or I'm hoping that you don't reject an increase to the employee recognition line. It was historically been $47.50, like that's what it's budgeted at, but that's usually not always spent. And I've increased it to $10,000 for recognition and other employee appreciation events. And on that note, we also have tentative plans to have a Goodbye Brookins party in the spring. So we'll get some dates out eventually, kind of waiting for the elevator project to get a little bit farther and we have a better timeline. But we're hoping to invite, former county board members, former employees, but we've been here for 25 years, 30 years. We've been here for a while. So a lot of people have worked in this building, and it's named after somebody that was obviously important to the county. So we just want to take a moment and acknowledge that before we completely vacate it and leave it and then graffiti it on our way out. So
Stephanie.
I did want to add, I just wanted to just sort of, we usually ask the board for their feedback on this. The board, this is our budget. This is like the one part of the budget we really, really do control. So we have $130,000, which used to be for the old admin person, the county administrator. And so as Michelle said, she asked me and I said, yeah, I think let's just let it ride. We have the temporary staff for Munis. We've had temporary staff when we had the broker for the nursing home that also, so we've had temporary staff in this ever since we got into this form of government. And then the other big dollar amount of that 130 is the grant coordinator. I think the board, personally, I think the board has an investment in not just having a grant coordinator, but having a grant coordinator that we pay for, quite frankly, so that we have some level of input into that position. And then the leftover 18K is just in professional services, and this is like if we need a lawyer or something like that, external counsel. But that's just my opinion, is like let it keep going. But I just want to make sure that everybody in the board is okay with that that breakdown. We usually at this point have a conversation about that. Is there anybody that thinks we should break it down in some other way or doesn't like those expenses? Because this is like, that $130,000 is like our budget, basically. So I just wanted to get your feedback on that. I don't see anybody throwing a paper and saying that's a bad idea. I think we've already seen the grant person, and I'm excited about the opportunity for that to expand. Okay, so proceed.
Just note, my predecessor wanted to sweep that into admin, so.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JJ.
This is more of a just to have it on your radar, since we're talking about vacating this building at some point. I'm not sure what the laws are on it, but there are human remains buried here from the old county poor farm, and we're going to need to make sure that we follow it. And for anybody that doesn't know it, there's actually a memorial up along Washington Street. Over on that side, there is a stone in the ground in memory of the people that were buried here when this was the county poor farm. And when Brookins was constructed as a junior high, they actually had to move human remains. And so they're up there in the area inside that Circle Drive. There is a plaque on the east end of the Circle Drive. So that was always, when I was in the auditor's office, I loved taking that out, taking people out there and showing them that, and they're going, "Are you kidding me?" So yeah, so that is up there. So it's something that we might want to just make sure we're aware of any ramifications from that.
yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
For that information.
Very, very helpful,
like,
JJ. Excellent.
The whole corner parcel, like the whole thing was a cemetery?
No, we'd have to look at some old stuff, but this, so the old nursing home.
The old house?
The old house,
Okay.
that was the poor farm.
Okay.
And so there may have been things moved several times over the last 140 years that the county has had something on this property.
Well, no, I appreciate that. We're definitely going to incorporate that into the Goodbye Brookings party. So we're going to have to figure out a way to honor these individuals that are here and have been here the whole time and we didn't know it, so.
No further questions. Move on to.
at
Go
the-
ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
At the urging of an unnamed board member, I kudos and salute to JJ for actually knowing where the bodies are buried.
All right, moving on to general fund debt service.
So this is the fund where we have dedicated revenues to pay the county plaza bond. In your book, you'll see the bond goes through 2042. For the most part, it's right around $1.4 million per year. So this is part of reserved fund balance that we can't spend out of the general fund fund balance. So there's just revenues that are dedicated in here that go straight to paying the bond, and that's about it.
No questions, no comments. Moving on, general county.
So this fund is the fund where a lot of the general revenues and appropriations are budgeted. So a lot of the county revenues, the sales tax, the portion of the property tax are budgeted here in the general fund. And so this is probably the highest revenue fund in the general fund, or at least one of them. The biggest expenditures going out are transfers to CARF and to, there's some transfers to the highway just to support them as well. And the employee health insurance is paid for out of this fund as well. The revenues, I'm hoping to get one more month of data from the state early next month to update the sales tax revenue numbers before our meeting in September. I can't guarantee that they'll all be out by then, but hopefully the majority of them will. One thing I would like to note is we talked about this during the financial forecast, and Tammy talked about it before that. Personal property replacement tax has been going down. It was at historic highs. Right now, we're projected to have about $1.7 million in revenue in '24 and budgeted $1.5 million in '25. And just 2 years ago, we were at $3.4 million. So that's a significant drop to revenue.
Don.
I'm really sorry, Travis, but I'm not going to ask you a question. I feel very humbled by JJ right now because, for those of you that don't know, I'm a historian. I have a couple degrees in history. I taught at Urbana Middle School, right? I also was superintendent of Urbana School District, and I was kind of the district historian. I knew about the poor farm and the bodies being moved. I wasn't ready for that, though. That was excellent. But during that time, I was also the co-director of the Teaching American History Collaborative, which was a grant-funded program that funded professional development for teachers. And we digitized like thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even 1 million local documents. And all I did was Google. It was the first hit. It was the first hit. And amazingly enough, thanks in part to MC, it still exists on the USD 116 website. It probably won't after tonight because it's my voice that's saying this. Thank you for those of you that got that. But August 10th, 1970, there's an article in the Courier, the Urbana Courier, about the service that was held here on the Brookings site because they actually like hit bodies with like construction equipment. And so, fascinating article. I'll try and download it and send it around to the board if that's okay. And again, I'm sorry for taking up time for that, but you got me, JJ, and I'm hats off.
Stephanie.
I am also a degreed historian who gets really into this stuff. Would you, I know you're leaving us, but would you maybe, the two of us, and maybe Jay, we could work together and let's like get some articles and stuff for this party and have some like, hey, the past of Brookings that people could walk through. I mean, because this building is fascinating. I do think it might be haunted, but it's also just super, like there's so much history here.
If I could just chime in on that, two things. One, when my wife was a deputy coroner here, she agrees that this building is haunted because she would be here at, sometimes on a call at 2 a.m, come in to do paperwork, and she swore she heard things throughout the building. So that was part. The other thing is when you talk about people that have memories of this building going to junior high, that was one of the biggest things working in the county clerk's office. People coming in saying, this was whatever room here or something like that. Like the county clerk's office, most people said it was the cafeteria. You know, and that's, so they were always trying, so it is a piece of history that people like to talk about.
I would say once a month, well, everyone who works here knows that if you go out into the hallway, you're going to have to direct somebody, first of all. And once a month, the person's like, yeah, I can't believe I don't remember. I used to go to school here, and they have a story about it. Yeah, it's interesting.
Brett.
So have we fully surveyed the area around here? I mean, do we have to go out and use LiDAR or something like that, see if there's any more bodies? Yeah.
Could be really interesting, actually.
I'm just thinking, well, if we try to sell the building, you know, we probably should get that checked out maybe first.
I smell an ARPA project.
Anybody else? All right, I do want to just, before we sign out of this, the information that Travis has gave us ahead of the history stuff, points to some financial shortfalls that we're going to be looking at, most likely. And economic data as well does not look terribly promising. So, but I did like the history stuff a lot. Let's go on to American Rescue Plan Act.
All right, there's not a lot to talk about here. You all know what this is. This budget here that's in pads right now is based on the latest spreadsheet I got from Kathy, but I am hoping to meet with her before our September meeting and get this more finalized and up to date based on new numbers that she has.
I just want to add to that. So we have a meeting with Kathy on the books in preparation that we will come to the Special Finance Committee meeting with potentially what I've been calling the naughty list. And there may be some decision points for you all as to how long are you going to let it ride that they're not spending the money that we've allocated, because we have until the end of the year to make some decisions. So again, we've harassed them extensively, and the majority of them are doing much better. There's a few that are still a little concerning. If they get it turned around, maybe we won't have to talk about it, but anticipate that being part of the conversation at the special committee is, are you really comfortable saying, okay, never mind, we're going to take it back and do something else with it? So, yeah. It's good to know. I like that you know yourself.
All right. Questions, comments from anybody? Go ahead, Travis.
Are we done with ARPA? I got two other closing things.
I didn't see anybody else, so yes.
Okay, so I wanted to mention, included in your handouts are just some economic data points to consider as we're thinking of the budget. If anyone wants to talk about them, give me a call. I'm happy to chat, but I doubt you guys want to spend an hour in here tonight doing that. And second, I want to thank Sheila Jackman for all her help with the budget and CARF throughout this process.
Go ahead, Don.
So Travis, just maybe for all of us in the room, but also the viewing audience, I think the flash index, U of I flash index is a critical data point. And could you, in a couple sentences, say why is it important that it's at the lowest since April 2021?
So the flash index, basically, at data point 100 means it's neutral. If it's above 100, the economy is expanding. If it's below 100, it's declining. And over the last year or so, it's kind of steadily dropped a little bit. And right now, it's currently at just above 102.3, which is the lowest since it first got back into the positive after the COVID pandemic. So it's just kind of a slowing economy right now. So and of note, this model is from a professor at the U of I. So a local guy kind of put this together.
Stephanie.
I just wanted to echo Travis's thanks to Sheila and to Travis too. In my class on Tuesday, I teach this class, I was talking about unseen labor and how much unseen labor makes our lives possible. And so I wanted to commend her and you as well. Putting this together is no small feat. So thank you very much for the work that you put into this and the work that you do to make this accessible to us as lay people. So thank you for that work, and please pass it along to her as well.
Any further board comments or questions? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.